Have you ever been in one of those rooms, where a decision worth millions, maybe even billions, is hanging in the balance? In those moments, communication, it's not just talk. It's everything. A couple of sentences can cement you as a leader, but one wrong move can just completely shatter your credibility. So let's break down the 5 communication skills that the absolute best leaders use to command any room they walk into.
And listen, that's not just some nice-sounding quote. I've seen it happen with my own eyes. The most effective leaders, they've mastered 5 specific skills, and they all kind of build on each other. But that last one, skill number 5, that's the one that really changes the game. It's what separates the good managers from the truly great leaders. So you ready to jump in? Let's start with the one skill that makes all the others possible.
So let me tell you a story. I was in this board meeting once, and a CFO was presenting the company's big financial plan. Someone asked him about profit margins, and he launched into this 60-slide deep dive. Frankly, it was just painful. Then, the same question goes to the CEO. She just pauses for a second and gives a direct 3-line answer. The difference? Whoa, it was night and day.
And here's the absolute key difference. As employees, right, we're trained to show our work. We feel this need to walk our bosses through every single detail just to prove we did the thinking. But leaders, they don't do that. They just make the call. They give you the conclusion right up front. See, they've already done the homework, and they trust that it's solid. They're giving you the headline, not the entire newspaper.
A really great way to practice this is using what's called the 3A pyramid. It's super simple. First, you give the direct answer, then you back it up with 2 or 3 key arguments, and finally, you offer the add-ons, the nitty-gritty details, but only if they ask for them. And after you've given your answer and your arguments, here's the hardest part. You just stop talking. Let that silence do the work. If they need more, believe me, they will ask. Okay, so once you start answering first, the next step is to get rid of this sneaky little habit that just quietly murders your executive presence. And the crazy thing is, most people have no idea they're even doing it. I was coaching this VP of product once who kept getting passed over for a promotion. The guy was a rock star, totally brilliant, but the board just felt he lacked conviction. When I had him do a practice presentation for me, I heard it right away. His speech was just littered with these little hedge words and fillers. I think, maybe, possibly. They sound so harmless, right? But what they really do is suck all the authority right out of your message. Just look at the difference here. Taking, I think we should maybe try this, and turning it into a direct, we should do this, well, that changes everything. It screams confidence and conviction.
Can you even imagine? This example just hits it perfectly. The raw power of that speech came from its absolute clarity and unwavering belief. Now look, we're not all giving historic speeches, I get it, but the principle is exactly the same. In the real world, promotions go to the person who sounds like a leader, and getting rid of those weak words gives your message the power it deserves.
So what can you actually do about this? First, prep. Really prep. Rehearse your key points until you can say them in your sleep. Second, record yourself on your phone. Yeah, it's gonna be cringeworthy, but trust me, counting all your ums and likes is a real wake-up call. Third, try a filler detox. Just pick one word, like maybe, and try to banish it for a whole week. And finally, learn to swap those hedges for silence. A good, thoughtful pause makes you sound so much more authoritative than I think. Okay, so your words are tight, you're answering first, speaking with clarity. What's next? Well, the fastest way to lose a room isn't actually about what you say, it's about looking like you don't believe your own words. And man, did I learn this one the hard way. Early in my career, my boss pulled me aside and said, "Your ideas are great, but you look nervous as hell." I was fidgeting, bouncing my leg, looking everywhere but his eyes. And you know what? He was 100% right. And get this, the science here is just wild. Researchers at Princeton found that people decide how competent you are just by looking at you in 100 milliseconds. That is literally faster than you can blink. No joke. Before you've even said hello, your body language has already delivered a powerful message.
And if you think this is just some small-time corporate stuff, think again. This has literally shaped history. Back in the 1960 debate, people watching on TV saw a calm Kennedy and a sweaty Nixon, and they said Kennedy won. But people listening on the radio, they thought Nixon won. A simple glance at a watch made George H.W. Bush seem out of touch. Al Gore's constant sighing made him seem arrogant. Your body can win or lose hearts and minds. So this brings us to a really powerful idea. You can have the direct answer, the confident delivery, the perfect posture, but if you're just spitting out facts, you are going to be forgettable. Because here's the secret. Facts go to the brain, but stories go straight to the heart. An executive at HP told me once he was giving this super data-heavy speech, and he saw his CEO at the time, Carly Fiorina, in the wings. She just smiled, shook her head, and pointed to her heart. Message received: tell a story. And of course, the absolute king of this was Steve Jobs. He never sold you specs. He didn't say, here's a device with 5 gigabytes of storage. He said, 1,000 songs in your pocket. One is just a boring fact. The other is a story. It's a feeling. It's a whole experience. And that's the one people are still talking about decades later. And look, the science on this is just, it's not even a debate. There was a Stanford study where one group of students got a list of random words to memorize. The other group got the same words, but they were woven into a little story. The results were just bonkers. The list group, they remembered only 13% of the words. But the story group, they remembered a staggering 93%. Same information, totally different outcome.
So, how do you actually start doing this? It's easier than you think. First, build your own little story toolbox. Have 3 core stories ready to go. One about a time you struggled, one about a big win, and one about a major turning point in your life. Second, learn to translate that story for whoever you're talking to. The board needs to hear about strategy. Your team needs to hear about execution. It's the same core story, you just change the lens. And third, always anchor your data in a narrative. Don't just give people a number, make them feel it.
Okay, so we're at number 5, the last one. And honestly, this is the one that holds everything else up. You can master all the other stuff, the clarity, the confidence, the storytelling, but if you don't get this fundamental shift in your mindset, it will all fall apart. I promise you. And I have to be honest, I learned this lesson in maybe the most painful way possible. It was my last day at a company, and I asked one of my top lieutenants for some real feedback. He looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he said that. He told me I'd been more focused on showing off than on showing up for him. And it crushed me, because I knew deep down he was right. I realized in that moment, leadership is not about you.
And this right here, this is the pivot. This is the whole ballgame. Becoming a real leader is about making this one massive adjustment. When things go right, true leaders shine the spotlight away from themselves. Amateurs say, I did this. Leaders say, we did this. And then they name every single person who made it happen. And when things go wrong, amateurs point fingers. Leaders stand up and say, that one's on me. And man, President Truman just nailed it with this one. When you live by this philosophy, when you give credit away freely and you absorb blame willingly, people think that's weakness. It's the exact opposite. It's how you build the single most valuable currency a leader can possibly have.
So you see, at the end of the day, all of this, speaking like a CEO, it's not really about sounding slick or having the perfect words. All of these skills are just tools for building one thing: trust. When your team trusts you, they will run through walls for you. When they don't, the smallest little problem can bring the whole thing crashing down. Because trust communicates more powerfully than any technique ever. So I want to leave you with this one last question to really chew on. In your meetings, in your one-on-ones, in every single interaction you have, what's your real goal? Are you trying to prove how smart you are? To be the most interesting person in the room? Or are you trying to serve your team? To listen? To be the most interested person in the room?